AM 650 KGAB, Cheyenne's #1 news talk radio station. You're in tune with the Weekend in Wyoming program. On the phone, I have Cheyenne Frontier Days CEO Tom Hirsig. Good morning, Mr. Hirsig.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for calling in. We appreciate it.
You bet. There's not much else to do today.
You've got that right. Now, the reason I'm having you call in is you folks released some information this week pertaining to last year and the fact that even though for the first time in its history, Cheyenne Frontier Days didn't happen, that didn't mean you weren't active in the community. Is that right?
Right. Typically Cheyenne Frontier Days, provides a big economic impact to the community, and our businesses kind of depend on that as sort of a second Christmas. And when we decided that we weren't going to be able to have a safe event last year, you have to redirect, and you've got to do something. And of course, our mission statement is supporting the economy or the community. So, doing things to keep supporting the community were really important to the volunteers and the staff, and really, I think they all did a tremendous job. We had a couple big team ropings that brought, probably 1,000 to 3,000 people to this town. That certainly spent a little money, and being able to have the graduation early in the year for all the kids that weren't going to be able to have a graduation, that was nice to be able to do something for the youth that, boy, they're getting a lot of things taken away from them this year. So it's nice to be able to help out there too.
Now, Tom, just so people have some frame of reference here, how much does CFD typically contribute to the local economy when it does happen, as it almost always does?
So every 3 years we have an economic impact study done by Dean Runyon and Associates, who, they do all the economic impacts for the Department of Tourism in the state, but usually it brings in about $28 million in economic impact to the community. So it's a big number. We bring in, we also have about 300 part-time jobs that we create. So it is a big thing for the community. We did, the other side of Cheyenne Frontier Days, a lot of people probably don't realize we contribute a lot of money back into the community, and so typically, like in 2019, we gave over $86,000 back to the community in donations. So, everything we do, we try to do for the community, but it's $28 million in 10 days is a pretty big impact. We are, next to Yellowstone Park, we're the biggest event in the state of Wyoming.
Now, I'd probably be remiss if I didn't ask you how things look for this year. Does it look like we're going to go, or do we know, or how's that look?
Gosh, it's kind of a roller coaster. Some days you think, everything's looking good, and then something else happens. And, I think the vaccine is really the light at the end of the tunnel. People are getting vaccinated. Actually, we had a meeting with a Zoom call with University of Nebraska Medical Center, where they have a team up there that works on opening events back up, and so they're pretty optimistic about the summer, and actually said that Laramie County is kind of doing much better than many counties in the vaccination program. So that helps a lot if we can get people vaccinated. That just makes it easier for them to allow us to have an event. I'm pretty optimistic, though, that we're going to be able to do something. I don't know what that really means for sure, but I think the rodeo certainly has a lot more opportunity than maybe the concerts do. So I really think that we'll be able to have an event this year.
And when will we know a little bit more about it, or do we know when that will happen yet?
Well, so we're just started. We started meeting with the governor, and we're going to start meeting more frequently with the Department of Health. We're going to have a internal team that works from the hospital, from like a Blue Cross perspective, from the whole community perspective, because it is going to take everybody in this community has got to be on board with this. The hospital's got to feel comfortable that they're not going to get overwhelmed by any kind of event here. So, it really is going to take the whole community, but, we'll start on those conversations. We've already started some of them, but probably get a lot more intense around the first week of March. I'm looking for some direction somewhere like the end of March, first part of April, to where we can announce this is what we're going to have and be able to go on sale the tickets.
And if I'm hearing you correctly, though, you hope to do something, or we're not just going to bag it.
Right. Yes. I feel comfortable. Unless something really turns and this thing gets way worse than anybody expects. I think, even if a rodeo at 50%, or we went through and did a budget basing everything on 50%, and it wouldn't be pretty. We're certainly not going to make any money doing it, but we're not going to lose a whole lot by doing it, and it's important to do something for the community. So, we feel like we can do that at least. So, I really feel, like I say, unless something turns and makes this thing worse than what we expect, I think we will have something.
Now, getting back to last year, of course, it was kind of a shock, and because nobody really knew COVID was coming, this wasn't something that obviously you could plan ahead for. At what point did you know it wasn't going to happen, and when did you start thinking about some alternative ways to help the community?
Well, I think right up until April, I was holding out hope that we were going to be able to do something, but it wasn't long before we announced that we really came to the conclusion that we weren't going to be able to do anything. So it took us a minute to kind of get, our heads wrapped around, well, we're used to planning this great big show. Now what do we do? And, I think getting everybody over the disappointment and then kind of refocusing our energies to trying to do something, certainly people weren't ready right after we announced the decision, because they were very discouraged. So, a week or two after that, everybody decided they wanted to at least make an impact this year and wanted to be productive, and so we tried to do the best we could.
And at what point did you start looking around to see, well, what else can we do?
I think immediately we started looking at the end of the community to see, I think our first project was with DDA. I was at a meeting, a community meeting, and she had said that they were having problems. They had all those crumbling planters downtown, and I said, well, we have equipment, and, the city, of course, was strapped. Everybody was, taking a big hit, and said, we have volunteers, we have equipment. So, I think it just started snowballing after that. And then, driving to town one day was hearing about the struggles at the graduation. So I reached out to the administration and asked if they've considered Cheyenne Frontier Days as an option. And, they were very excited about that. So it just kind of, as soon as we got something under our belt, everybody said, well, that felt pretty good. Let's try to find something else. So, we did Pando Park. We took care of Pando Park this summer, so for the city. So, everybody felt good about at least having a part in doing something.
Now, what's the planning process right now for 2021? Where are we at right at this point?
Well, so right now we've gone through with all of our committees, because the committees are the production part of Cheyenne Frontier Days. The volunteers do the production of Cheyenne Frontier Days, going through, having them look at every area of what we do, from the pancake breakfast to, our Sidewinder Saloon or the amphitheater, the Buck and Egg, going through each one of those venues, figuring out what do we do to make those safe? What can we possibly do to make those things safe? And having all those options listed, and being able to go in so that everyone knows we're serious about having an event that's going to be safe. We're just not going to throw the doors open and expect Cheyenne Frontier Days to exist like it has in the past. But, the volunteers and the staff really came together with some great planning. I sent that to the group we're working with at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, and they were impressed. They have some suggestions. They're editing that right now. So, we'll present that plan to the health department, and we'll be meeting with them the first week of March, and really start digging in on what we need to do and what we don't need to do, and what we can do. So that's the process right now, is just making sure we have everything in order and know what we need to do to have the event.
Now, a lot of work goes into this, and I'm not sure everybody understands just how much is involved. Tell us a little bit about what happens in a normal year.
Well, yeah, a normal year, we're busier than heck, just, working with contractors and, making sure we have all our night shows put together. We're on sale typically at this time, so we have, we have people buying tickets. Usually we're having 4 or 5 meetings a week with the volunteer force trying to coordinate everything we're going to do. And, a lot of that stuff's kind of put on hold because we can't make those absolute decisions until we know how many people, what it's going to look like. So it's going to, we've talked about that internally, that, what's going to happen to us is first week April, or if we know by then, it's going to be, everybody's hair is going to be on fire. This will be hands down the hardest year for us to put an event on. It's going to be incredibly challenging. It's going to be frustrating at times, but we're up for the task. But it's not going to be easy.
Well, and you mentioned the thing with the night shows. The other issue with the night shows, a lot of performers aren't touring right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's, some of them, are not touring. You're exactly right. There's a lot of them, though, and we've heard from that industry. That industry has been devastated because their money really is made anymore off of tours, concerts, and they've been out of work for, going on a year now. So there's a lot of them. Some have decided not to tour, but there's a lot of them out there that need to go back to work, just like a lot of people do. And so I think there's plenty of acts out there. I don't think that's going to be a challenge. I think there's lots of people. We've got some really good acts that we're excited to announce as soon as we can figure out how many tickets we can sell.
So you're still in the process then of talking to people, even though we don't know anything firm yet, it sounds like.
You mean as far as the acts?
Yes.
Yeah, we've only got one night that's kind of up in the air. We've got everybody else is on board. We had 3 return from last year. Blake Shelton, Eric Church, and Thomas Redder. We had them last year, and they're coming back this year. And then we've got all but one night that we've got firm commitments and contracts on doing those nights, all except the one night. So, we're poised. I mean, we're ready to go on sale, and I think when they see our full night show lineup, it's incredible this year. So, we hope we'll get to host enough people that to make it worthwhile.
When might we see that announcement on the night show lineup?
Well, again, I think, I'm hoping for into the first to the second quarter. So somewhere into March, first part of April, we hope we'll be able to announce that. We can't announce and go on sale because one thing we don't want to do is have to take somebody's ticket away.
Right.
We sell tickets and then it comes back and we can't have that many people. So, our ticket buying window is going to be shortened by a lot this year.
How was that handled last year for people who had tickets?
So last year we gave everybody an option. We gave them 90 days. They could either roll it over to next year, keep their tickets. They could get a refund, or some people even chose to donate their tickets to our foundation, and that really helped us kind of get through the year with a little additional income.
Now, as far as this year, I mean, have you been in touch with all the normal volunteers to see if they are available, and how's the status on that working out?
Yeah, I think the volunteers are a lot like the general population. A lot of them, boy, they're wanting to get back out and do something. They want to be involved, and even last year when we weren't having the show, they were out working on the park, painting, weed eating, doing all the things that it takes to keep our park in shape. So, they want to come. Certainly, there's going to be some this year that because of whatever, they may have health conditions or, maybe not feel comfortable this year. But it feels like a majority. We've asked, most of them they want to come back. So, I think we're going to be in good shape when it comes to volunteers.
Okay, I'm speaking with Tom Hirsig, CEO of Cheyenne Frontier Days. Tom, it had to be a shock last year. I know you guys work hard on this each and every year. It was new territory. How long did it take to just deal with the emotional impact of, hey, we're not going to be able to do what we do this year?
And I talked to other rodeos about this, because most all rodeos and events canceled last year. And, you think as you're getting up to that point where you got to do what you got to do, you think, well, I'm going to announce that, then we're all going to feel better and we're going to move on. But it doesn't work that way. It's it's almost like going through the death of somebody that is close to you. You just don't get over that just by saying that it's not going to happen. And it took it just took a long time to get over that. We never thought that. We always kind of planned, what happens if a tornado comes and knocks the stands down in June and we can't have the event? What do we, how do we do that? But I don't think anyone ever thought this was going to happen. Even, going into March of last year, we really felt safe on having our event. And, boy, we certainly didn't think that coming into this next year that there would be any questions about it. But boy, it's certainly taken its toll on everybody.
Okay, in case you're just joining us, I'm speaking with Cheyenne Frontier Days CEO Tom Hirsig. And Tom, this all comes out of your report from last year. What else came out of the report that you found interesting, if anything in particular?
Well, besides having all the, of course, the financial aspect of, losing $3.4 million, that's a huge hit to Cheyenne Frontier Days. We will certainly will be okay going in, to get to this year. But if we have a small show that maybe we don't do very well on, or if hopefully we don't have to cancel. But if we do, it will really change the face of Cheyenne Frontier Days in the future. It'll be we'll have to really look at reorganizing and I mean coming up with maybe some different business plans, because we really try to book like those Class A acts, the big ones, not just the mediocre ones. And those big acts want to know that you're financially stable because their guarantees are big. And so it's going to be a challenge if that happens. But we're like I say, we're optimistic that we're going to have that event and we're going to be moving forward. And so financially, that certainly was a big takeaway from our annual report. And I think it just goes back to doing the things that we could do for the community are the things that stand out to me. Even our sister companies, the Old West Museum, they've been battling, trying to keep afloat, and have done a great job keeping themselves relative. And our Volunteer Crisis Fund has been standing up for volunteers that have been impacted by this COVID, and those are people in our community. And then of course the Memorial Foundation that does all the scholarships, they did all the scholarships that they had planned on doing this year. So those are great things for our community, that those other organizations that share Cheyenne Frontier Day's name still were contributing to the community. So those are probably my biggest takeaways from last year.
Now, we may still have some social distancing in effect. The governor, as I'm sure you know, has loosened up some of those restrictions. We don't really know what the situation is by late July, but that could also imply at least a little bit of a financial loss, I would think. Would I be right?
Oh, absolutely. With social distancing, if you look at the University of Wyoming's having 2,000 people in their stadium over there for basketball games, and that gets to be, you still have to employ the same amount of people to host 2,000 as they do 12,000. Mm-hmm. So it's your cost effectiveness goes way down if you're limited on the amount of people. I tell people all this time, businesses were not designed to be at 50%. If they were, everybody would own a business.
It'd be easy.
It would be easy. So, yeah, that's certainly the social distancing is, everything we do is based around not social distancing. So that makes it a challenge.
Tom, how much are volunteers concerned about their safety in the age of COVID?
I think the volunteers are pretty much the same as our general population. I think there's some that view it as, it's very scary to them, and justifiably so. We've all lost some friends to this disease, but a lot of them, you get to a point as a human that you can't just live to survive. You got to live to live, and I think people are getting more and more to that point all the time, that you got to live to live. And so I think our volunteer force is not much different than what the general population thinks. Okay,
I'm speaking with Tom Hirsig, CEO of Cheyenne Frontier Days. And Tom, did you learn anything from last year? You know, obviously it was canceled and we didn't do the things we want, but did you learn anything that might be incorporated into future planning?
Well, you know, I think one of the things that we learned is, you know, or that I learned, and we've always, you know, kind of tried to have more events at Frontier Park. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's easy to say. It's not easy to have all those events, especially when you've got a staff that's built around just putting on, you know, that 10-day event, and it takes really all the resources. But I think utilizing that park more and more, I think is important. You know, we're going to continue to do the graduation this year. We're going to put the farmers market back out there this year. We've got this wide open space that, you know, really, it's right in the heart of the city, and so I think trying to make sure that we incorporate that, you know, doing more for the community, not just during those 10 days. I think we all learned how important that is, and we all have to be a better community partner, and so that's what I learned from this last year.
Tom, how about the rodeo cowboys? How does COVID affect what they do, if it does?
Oh, it's been devastating to the cowboys. You know, every major rodeo, starting with Houston last year, canceled. There was a few rodeos that, you know, were probably and this isn't demeaning to the rodeos, but purse-wise are like B-class rodeos. You know, the A ones went away, and you look at, you know, contestants' pro rodeo standings right now. Usually those guys have 3-4 times more money won in a given year than they do this year, which tells you, boy, it's been hard on them. There's just not money out there for them, and as we all know, those cowboys don't have contracts, or it's what you win when you go there. So it's been really hard on the contestants. You know, you think about our partners in the carnival industry and the concessions industry. They've been out of work just like we have for a year. So most all the people that we do business with, they've been really hurt by this COVID and not having events.
Tom, is there anything you'd like to mention that we haven't discussed so far?
You know, I think we've touched upon everything. You know, the thing I'd like to emphasize is, you know, people start thinking about having Frontier Days, and, you know, it could be scary. Well, we're going to take every step possible to make sure that the event is safe, and we're going to be working with lots of partners and lots of people that have expertise in these diseases. I mean, that's certainly not our wheelhouse, so we have to rely on other people, and we're going out to get lots of opinions and making sure that the things we do will be safe this year. We want to have the event, but we have to make it safe too.
Well, and it sounds like you'd like to encourage everybody as much as possible to get vaccinated and take the right precautions.
Absolutely. I mean, that's going to be the key when the health department looks at, you know, how many people have been vaccinated in our community, because, you know, when you think about Cheyenne Frontier Days, our customer base is so transactional. They come for maybe 1 or 2 night shows, and then they're gone. But the people in the community are the ones we got to make sure we protect. So the more people we can get vaccinated, the more comfortable our health department and our governor is going to feel with having Cheyenne Frontier Days.
Okay, I've been speaking with Tom Hirsig, Cheyenne Frontier Days CEO. We've been talking about what they did last year in the community with the event canceled for the first time in its history, taking a little bit of a look forward. Talked about the volunteers and some of the potential announcements that might be coming up. Tom, just to summarize here, I guess the high point for me is it sounds like you folks expect to do something this year.
Yes, we do. We fully expect to have Cheyenne Frontier Days. Okay.
Tom, is there anything else you'd like to mention in the minute we have left?
You know, I'd like to mention a little bit about security will be a lot different this year. Last year we were going to have security fencing around the park with a better system to get people in and out of the park and going through metal detectors. We will be instituting a clear bag policy this year. So, things will be a little bit different when you show up to Frontier Days, and we'll put all that information out there when it's finalized. But security, of course, doesn't go away with a different challenge. We still understand it's got to be safe health-wise, and it's got to be safe every other way too. So we'll be working on those things too.
Okay, I'd like to thank my guest on this segment. We've been talking with Tom Hirsig, CEO of Cheyenne Frontier Days. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Stay warm.